Hello once again and welcome to another Chess.com podcast. Now in today's podcast I'm going to look at a mistake, a really horrific mistake that I saw played out on the Chess.com live server. But before we look at that particular example, I just want to use this setup on the board at the moment to show you what we mean by opposition and why opposition is important. Well, in this example, if it was black to move, black wants to gain opposition, near opposition, which means he's just one square away and on the same colour square as the king. So in this example, the move king to g4 gets the opposition, the near opposition. So now, no matter where the white king was to move to, the black king could stay on the same coloured square. So the king can't make progress, and therefore the pawn is forced to be pushed in this position. So the pawn goes to f3. The black king's got to move, and all he has to do is stay in front of the pawn. And although it's white who has the opposition, black can stop the white king from advancing by regaining the opposition. I'll show you what I mean. So here, the best move for black, and in fact the only sensible move, is to move straight back in front of the pawn. You should always try and keep the king in front of the advancing pawns. So the white king comes to e3, and black regains the opposition with king e5. So again, we know the only way to get out of this opposition is to make a pawn move. f4, king goes to f5, you want to stay in front of that pawn as close to it as possible, and king f3, king f6, king g4, and this time swing to king g6. And we see this pattern repeated all the way up the board. But what happens when we get to the back rank is that there's nowhere for the black king to go. So after king f6 we have a stalemate position. All the squares are blocked off. So that's how black would defend that position. Now let's have a look, going right back to the very beginning, how black would lose this position if white was first to move. Well, if it's white to move, white wants to stop the black player getting the opposition, and the best way of doing this is by grabbing it yourself. So here, king to g3. Note that if the king, say, came to f3, then simply king f5 draws this endgame. So king g3, grabbing the opposition, king f5, king f3. It's the same setup as we had just a second ago, but now it's black to move. The king goes to e5, king goes to g4, stopping the opposition being grabbed. King f6, king f4. We keep grabbing the opposition, forcing the king back. And then at this stage, we could force back even further, and there's nothing wrong with the move king to g6 before matching our pawn. But we have enough space here to play f3. Note that the move f5 would be a mistake, because then the king could come to f7 and it's a draw because black's grabbed the opposition. You have to play f3, black grabs the opposition, then you play f4 and he has to give up the opposition again. King to g6, king f6, king to g7, and we can just force the pawn through, and we're going to very easily win this endgame. So that's the very basics of opposition. If you've never really looked at it before or wondered what opposition was and why it's important, then look over this podcast again, and also check out online different examples of where opposition can help you win, or in fact help you save a game you think might be lost. But now we're going to look at a particular example I saw on the Chess.com web server. So this is the example I saw on the live Chess.com web server, and it was white to play, again trying to promote the knight pawn, and white played king to e2. After about a second or two sport, these are blitz games, and blitz does not improve your game unless you're going to analyse afterwards. Black played king e5, instantly losing the game. White player played king e3, king f5, king e3, king f3, sorry. White has the opposition and was able to force the black king back, and soon realised this game was over and resigned. And maybe the black player was thinking, well, I don't want to come to f5 because I know that after king f3 I'm definitely lost. But there was a winning move, or a drawing move for black. And the drawing move was king e6. And then what can the white player do? There's not much. If he plays king e3, then after king e5, king f3, king f5, we've already seen this is a draw. And if he tries to push a pawn with, say, f3, now we can play king f5. King e3 is harmless because we can grab the opposition with king e5. And we've already seen how to draw this position. So the only try left for white would be an instant f4. But king f5, king e3 has to be played because king f3 is a draw. King e3, king f6, king e4, and again black's got the opportunity to grab that opposition and draw this endgame. So if you're new to chess, or you don't really study endgames, or if you enjoy playing blitz and you just want to win a few more positions or draw some that you think you should have drawn, try looking at the ideas of opposition and simple kind of pawn versus king endgames. This is where most people start, and you can pick up a lot of tips which will help you in more complicated endgames later on. I hope you've enjoyed this Chess.com podcast, and there'll be another one coming out next Monday. Bye for now.